to Mayor Del Vecchio, and it's dated September the 30th, 1993, Wednesday, to Mayor Del Vecchio and Philip Amicone. Glendora told you all this was going to happen, but you wanted to ignore it. This is Mayor Del Vecchio talking about the dangers to the citizenry above illegal occupancy. And this was the fight that Glendora had with Amicone and with Mayor Del Vecchio. Illegal occupancies are dangerous. Dwelling units illegally converted to accommodate more people than they were originally designed for. That was just the issue at 40 Longview Avenue. Have not been inspected for safety. That's another issue at 40 Longview Avenue. White Plains is a great place to live. There are always fun activities for residents and visitors of all ages, but we have illegal occupancy. Glendora told you all this was going on, but you wanted to ignore it. Now, since it is election time, you want to act like heroes when really you are more like tortfeasors. At first, Glendora thought the White Plains Library acted badly because of their own bad management. Then she noticed how badly the White Plains city courts were run. Then came the building department and all the hiding and running away by Philip Amicone. Then came the queer way the city clerk, the mayor, handled Glendora's right to address the Common Council and the mayor. And now there is something ineffectual about the police department. As you said at my church Sunday, September the 19th, maybe it is time for a change. Okay, this is Glendora to Mayor Del Vecchio and Philip Amicone. Now you see, this is in Contact, the mayor's newsletter, and here's 3 pages about all the dangers of illegal occupancies. And Glendora says, since the summer of 1992, we have tried vainly to get the story of 40 Longview Avenue to City Hall and to have some effective action. Franklin wrote this. There was no certificate of occupancy, then in some obscure way there was a certificate of occupancy without any inspection. City Hall, led by the mayor and Philip Amicone, couldn't seem to come to grips with a blot on housing. Our efforts for a safe city of good housing were disregarded. Philip Amicone refused to come to the telephone for calls, refused to see and talk to us when we came to the building department. We told you about the 40 Longview situation at the town meeting, interval preceding the council meeting. Nothing ever happened. Your department head was as inaccessible as ever. This chapter raises doubts about the sincerity of the election time attention to illegal occupancies. There has been too much inattention in the past. In Contact, the mayor has this column. We want to hear from you. At first, Glendora says, I thought it was just the library management that was so bad. Then I found out the building department was inept. Then I found out you can't go before the Common Council and address your government, and that the system was bad. Now I find the police department does not do its job. Then I find out the White Plains courts are screwy. 1 year, 3 weeks to try a small claims case. The Del Vecchio administration is bad and has to go. Happened the week of October the 4th, 1993, Wednesday, on Glendora versus Philip Amicone and Mayor Del Vecchio. Glendora versus Philip Amicone, the building commissioner of the city of White Plains, and the mayor of White Plains, Alfred Del Vecchio, and the White Plains Building Department. Well, nothing happened. And Glendora will start perfecting her appeal of Judge Garayan's decision just as soon as she finishes the appeal, perfecting of the appeal, the brief for Judge Donovan. Versus Philip Amicone, the building commissioner of the city of White Plains, the city of White Plains mayor, Mayor Alfred Del Vecchio, and the White Plains Building Department. It is the appellant's brief, folks. It is the appellant's brief. going to the second department of the appellate division. And it consists of only 16 pages. Isn't that nice? These briefs are getting briefer and briefer. Did I ever tell you what I said to the appellate term a couple years ago on the Gannett Broder brief? It was in November of all times. And Joseph Papillo said, well, did you send your briefs in? And I said, no, it's too cold. It was in November. So I will first send this down to the appellate division in Brooklyn to the clerks again, and I'll ask them if I did it right and see if they see any errors in form or anything like that, because it has to be just right. So that'll probably go out on the 1st of November. 1st of November is a nice time this year. It's all lined up. This is astrologically auspicious. You have a new day, Monday, you have a new week, and you have a new month, November, and you have a new quarter. So everything's lined up, and you just got to be perfect. And I'm going to fast all day to celebrate that occasion. So I'll send it down in an envelope such as this, with a self-addressed stamped enclosed envelope such as this. And they will look it over, and they will send it back and tell me if there's anything that should be changed as far as the form of it goes. On Glendora versus Lydia Gallicano, of course, there wasn't anything. However, this case is a spin-off of that one, because it was their failure to enforce the safety code at 40 Longview Avenue that started this lawsuit, and their failure to respond by telephone, by personal visit, or by letter. Okie dokie. They have automobiles that talk. They have refrigerators that talk. What they need now is a washing machine that talks, and what will tell you what it did with the other sock. The building commissioner, White Plains Building Department, and Mayor Alfred Del Vecchio of White Plains, and the White Plains Building Department itself. On this appeal, this is appeal of Judge Garayan's bad decision. And the record, this is the record of appeal. Let's see, how do I show it to you? It's 94 pages. It has been sent down to the appellate division in Brooklyn for the clerks to check over and see if it's all right. It doesn't have to be served, perfected, this appeal until December sometime, around Christmas. And also the brief has been started. The first 3 sheets of the brief have been done. This is Philip Amicone, the building commissioner of White Plains, Alfred Del Vecchio, the mayor of White Plains, and the White Plains Building Department on the week of November 1st, 1993. They're out. Del Vecchio was not reelected. And the brief, the appellant's brief that I sent to the clerks of the appellate division down in Brooklyn to have them look over and see if I did anything wrong, that has not come back. So I'll read you this brief when it comes back, and I'm sure it's all right. So Del Vecchio was not reelected. He lost the primary, and I have said I think that this really added up. The inefficiencies of the library, the White Plains Library, the same of the White Plains Building Department, the same of the White Plains courts, the city courts, and the same of the White Plains Police Department. I think that it's time for a change, and that these departments do the job that they're supposed to do in looking out for us, don't you? 1993 on Glendora Plaintiff Appellant versus Philip Amicone, White Plains Building Commissioner, former, he's out now. Alfred Del Vecchio, former, he's out now. And the White Plains Building Department, defendants, respondents. This is the appellant's brief. And this is, I sent it down to the clerks down in Brooklyn to check, and here's my grades. I can't find anything wrong. Mind you, I'm not talking about the validity of your legal points. But that's was very nice of the clerk to check this over and see if I had followed the rules and had done the form right. Now, I'm not going to read you the whole thing, I'll just read you my points. This one on top of the head. First of all, you have to have an affidavit pursuant to CPLR 5531, which is merely saying what the action in the case was, what the motions were, what the summons were, what the cross motions were, the dates and so forth, what the decision was, when the notice of appeal was, and so forth. And then you have to have a table of contents. And then you see this is your points, all of your points. So I'm not going to read you those in the contents because they're repeated up in the argument. Those are the points of your argument. And then you have to have a preliminary statement. I'd better read you that because that's what it's all about. And then you have to change these points into questions involved. Plaintiff appellant Glendora appeals to this court from an order rendered too late and from each and every part thereof granting defendants respondents motion to dismiss plaintiff appellant's complaint of negligence and denying plaintiff appellant's cross motion for $30,000. Here we go. Oh no, then you have a statement of facts. The statement of facts is how the case evolved, and in this case you know how the case evolved. I pointed out these infractions of the White Plains Building Code at 40 Longview Avenue, owned by Lydia Gallicano. The Amicone would not answer the letter. He would not answer my telephone calls. He would not come and see me when I went to the White Plains City Hall. And he would not return calls. And so he was totally negligent, and I told Del Vecchio and the Common Council about it. Del Vecchio said he would do something, but nothing ever changed. So Del Vecchio is out. And one, this decision and order are not legal. It is 11 days late. This decision and order are not legal. They are 11 days late. The law says 60 days for a judge to make a decision. And here it is right here, folks, Rule 2219, time and form of order. And an order determining any motion shall be made within 60 days after the motion is submitted for decision. And Judge Garayan got this decision in 11 days. Boy, I bet you tell me I had a great deal of pleasure standing in that voting booth and not voting for Judge Garayan. Nobody knows yet whether he won. The return date was June the 8th, 1993. The decision and order were entered August 19th, 1993. A judge should live by the law. Keeping the law is what a judge is getting paid $95 a year for. Point two, this decision and order were not rendered on the merits of Glendora's case. Judge Garayan, his law clerk, never dealt with the issue, the negligence of Philip Amicone, building commissioner, or of his boss, Mayor Alfred Del Vecchio, nor of their department, the White Plains Building Department. The judge thinks it is just dandy that these three defendants endanger the lives and safety of the residents, and that could be you. They are getting paid their salaries to protect. Judge Garayan's decision and order is embarrassing to read. That a justice of the Supreme Court can't do better than that. This is a frivolous decision and order. It certainly is. Okay, where are we now? Point three, Judge Garayan is wrong. The Glendora had no special relation. A building commissioner, his department, and a mayor have no special relation to Glendora to protect her from a crumbling cellar foundation, from a single-family dwelling rendered illegally as a two-family dwelling, from a dwelling with no certificate of occupancy and had not been inspected, and cascades of other endangerments. As a resident, Glendora had no special relation to the public officials responsible for her safety. Wrong. Point four, Judge Garayan does not deal with the fault of the White Plains Building Department to answer the summons with notice and complaint. Glendora named the White Plains Building Department as a defendant. Defense lawyer never dealt with this nor even mentioned this, Glendora pointed out. This default in her cross motion responded on page 51 of her record on appeal. But this went over the head of Justice Garayan. This is not right. If a court doesn't pay attention to a default, who else has the job? Point 5, Judge Garayan is wrong that Glendora did not serve notice of claim pursuant to General Municipal Law, Section 50E, while Glendora telephoned the White Plains Law Department and was told how to file a notice of claim and was sent a pack of papers telling Glendora all the rules. They're very good about that, the Law Department. That's Anthony Grant. Anthony Grant is a nice man. And Glendora filed the proof of claim pursuant to the rules sent her. That it was late should not bother Justice Garayan and his law clerk. Their decision and order were 11 days late. In mentioning the Law Department, I want to mention Pat Green. She was at the front desk, and you might have known her. And I liked her very, very much. And at 58 years old, she died of a heart attack. God bless you, Pat Green. Point 6, Judge Garayan should have stated what the other reasons were and not be lazy. Plaintiff paid $245 for this action. Paragraph 5 of Judge Garayan's decision in order, page 11 of the Record on Appeal, states, for the specific reasons stated above as well as others, this court holds that. Now, is this worth $245? It is not even worth 2 cents. For $95,000 a year, a judge can do better than that. This is second grade. For this level of return, judges want a raise. Judge Palella, the judges who deserve a merit raise are the judges who deal with the cases on their merits, for the specific reasons stated above as well as others. So what are the other reasons? Point 7, this decision in order of prejudice, this decision in order of prejudice is another decision in order from the branches, from the benches of Westchester Supreme Court that is anti-pro se, anti-female, anti-individual, and anti-rights. We have no female judges in the Westchester Supreme Court. Our administrative judge has gone on record in the newspaper as being against pro ses. This is unconstitutional. A pro se has a right by the Constitution to defend herself. This decision and order are a premeditated hack political reaction. Rule in favor of the establishment and against the individual. This is not how courts are supposed to be. Remember, Judge Garayan does not have the last word, and neither does the appellate division. You do. The public does. Glendora reads all these papers on her program on television. Right? Right. Point 8, this decision and order set a bad example for municipal public officials. Judge Garayan should stand up for high performance. Isn't it so? A judge should stand up for what is right. A judge should not limp out the door whimpering. The negligent performance of a politician is just fine. Judge Garayan should have been. I wonder what Judge Garayan's background is. Like Judge Green on the AT&T Monopoly case. This was a moment for Judge Garayan to shine and show public officials they have a trust and show them people expect and deserve their highest performance. How can Judge Garayan sleep nights standing up for a dismal record like that of Amico and Del Vecchio and the White Plains Building Department? This decision in order is a blot on the escutcheon. Lady Glendora never gets her day in court, but more Lady Justice never has her day in court. Point 9, the last point. This decision in order is stacked, rigged, mechanical, and dehumanized, and late. Let me read that again to you. This decision and offer is stacked, rigged, mechanical, and dehumanized, and late. It is also premeditated. It is a foregone conclusion. The bads are going to win over the goods. Wrong is going to win over the right. The only task before law clerk and judge is to find a technicality to wiggle out of it. And why should they be 11 days late doing such an easy mechanical thing as that? And the last thing is the conclusion. It just seems to the appellant that this low quality of work in the Westchester Supreme Court just cannot continue. It seems you judges in the appellate division have to put your foot down. It is time that judges in their courts stood up for the law. It is time same got rid of their hackneyed prejudice, so predictable and so ingrained. It is time a judge like Garayan stood up for society, not political interests, and dealt swiftly and tellingly with the likes of Amico and Del Vecchio. It is time these Supreme Court justices and their law clerks stop playing these artificial, superficial, and puerile games of around and around the perimeter, never penetrating the center of the issue, never getting down to the merits. This is not justice. This is not what we pay $170 for to get an index number and $75 to buy a judge. Not only does MS Glendora not get her day in court as guaranteed by the United States Constitution, but MS Justice never gets her day in court. This is the 8th Westchester Supreme Court Justice who has done hollow work. The other 7 are JSC, Burroughs, Nicolai, Ruskin, Donovan, Coppola, Rosato, and Fredman. Whom does that leave me? Colabella, I guess. That is the end of the line. There is no point to Glendora spending $245, then $50 a notice of appeal, and then $200 copying and postage, and then $250 for a RADI. A RADI is a request for appellate division intervention. RADI, R-A-D-I. That's almost $800 in action. This totals about $6,400 so far, vainly in search of justice in a rotten, decadent, dying courthouse tower. It is a consumer ripoff. Judge Palella tells me judges deserve a raise. I cannot see it. Judges should get merit raises when they finally learn to rule on the merits. Why does the crook always win? Why can't the honest person win once in a while, like you and me? Isn't this what justice, as in Justice Supreme Court, JSC, stands for? Rewrite the school books and tell kids what it really is like, so they do not grow up thinking we have Sir Galahads and Sir Lancelots sitting on the benches. Instead, we have hollow robes and decisions being made by law clerks and judges standing on their heads. And judges with no judgment, I might add. Meanwhile, people like Glendora are doubly victimized, first by the defendant, then by a court system that has forgotten its calling, its raison d'etre. And we wander through purgatory, calling for truth and justice never to be heard. This, like all the other briefs, will be read on TV, as well as all the decisions. Plaintiff pleads that the Appellate Division 2nd Department reverse Judge Vincent Garayan's decision and grant Glendora $30,000 damages. Negligent municipal public officials should diligently perform the work with which the public entrusts them. They should not be patted on the back by the Supreme Court for dereliction of duty. White Plains, New York, dated, and let's see, I guess this was written sometime, finished the first week of November. Glendora, Box 532, Scarsdale, New York, 10583-914-949-9495. In fact, it would have had to been written before election, because I would have told them that Del Vecchio and Amicone lost. Opposition to defendant's reply affirmation that plaintiff did not receive until June the 9th, 1993, one day after the return date. Honorable Vincent Garayan. Defendants were negligent not to see that plaintiff got a copy of their reply affirmation 2 days before the return date of June 8, 1993, to give time for plaintiff to correct all the statements in it that are not true. Plaintiff is answering regardless. Please consider plaintiff's answer since defendant's service was defective. Plaintiff corrected the complaint of no notice of claim. Further, regarding a notice of claim before the lawsuit, plaintiff amply plaintiff amply and orally notified all defendants that their negligence was leading to an action against them in Supreme Court. You saw that. Glendora told Councilwoman Keenan that Glendora was about to initiate this negligence lawsuit, and Councilwoman Keenan said, "Not a bad idea." It is wrong to say plaintiff did not plead a special relationship between herself and the defendants. The defendants, as elected officials, had taken an oath of office to do their duty. It is their duty to protect residents of White Plains from violations of the White Plains Safety and Fire Code. To say, quote, "no special relationship exists," unquote, is grasping at thin air. Defendants are wrong with their paragraph, quote, "utilizing the judicial system as a vehicle to further publicize her personal dissatisfaction with the manner in which the defendants are conducting the affairs of the city," unquote. This statement shows no common sense and lacks intelligence. The case is about the negligences of the defendants. These negligences have been brought before the judicial system for redress. Defendant's paragraph 4 is meaningless. The, quote, "perjury," unquote, perjury accusation is repeated. Mr. Pagano is not, quote, "fully familiar with the facts of this matter and the pleadings served herein." He does not even know that this is a lawsuit about 10 counts of negligence and negligent infliction of emotional distress. Nowhere does he deal with the issue. He acts as though he never read the complaint. What Mr. Pagano has written in his paper, quote, detracts from the dignity and integrity of the judicial system, unquote. Avoiding the issue and not answering the charges in a paper so late, plaintiff cannot point out the deficiencies. Plaintiff handed in a notice of claim. Plaintiff pleads that this notice of claim be accepted by the court. Defendant's desperate clutching of this technicality detracts from the dignity and integrity of the judicial system, unquote. The defendants were negligent in their office and caused this citizen of White Plains great injury. Again, defendants present no defense, and plaintiff's motion for default and/or summary judgment should be granted pursuant to civil practice laws and rules 3311B. Wherefore, plaintiff pleads that defendant's motion be dismissed for failure to state a defense, and that plaintiff's motion for default and/or summary judgment be granted on the grounds of plaintiff's cause of action, negligences, 10 counts, and negligent infliction of emotional distress, and that plaintiff be granted the cost of this action. White Plains, New York, June the 11th, 1993. Glendora, Box 532, Scarsdale, New York, 10583. Subscribed and sworn to before me this 11th day of June, 1993. Ivan Pinerio. He is an assistant county clerk on the 3rd floor in the county office, in the county courthouse. This article was in the newspaper just a couple of days ago, July the 28th, 1993, Wednesday. White Plains starts cracking down on housing violations. But until he went inside the single-family home July 20th, White Plains building inspector Tony Magnotta said the extent of the problem remained hidden. It's about rooming houses, and rooming houses in Fisher Hill, Battle Hill, Highlands, Ferris Avenue, Eastview, and Carhart. And it's really not a news item. It's nothing but a publicity gimmick. And of course, Gannett writes it up as news, but it really isn't. It's just a public relations release. There's a quote here that you should be very interested in. Just a second. The wire, and before you know it, you've got a fire. With so many people crammed in one place, there is a very high chance of someone not getting out, said White Plains Building Commissioner Philip Amicone. Well, he finally spoke. Now, why didn't a newspaper write about this case that you just heard about? No, they wouldn't do that. How to report violations. The White Plains Building Department has launched a crackdown on overcrowded, poorly maintained buildings. The department found about 30 properties that violated building codes during inspections in the past week. I found one that violated about 60 building codes. To report buildings with electrical problems, fire hazards, or overcrowding, call the White Plains Mayor's office at 422-1411. Callers do not have to give their names. Folks, time is up. You know, all of the money that the landlords put into the legislature, you know, they spend millions. And so please join the New York State Tenant and Neighborhood Coalition. It's time to renew your membership. I send in my $20. Dear individual members, you may be aware rent control, rent stabilization, and co-op condo conversion laws expire every 2 years unless renewed by the state legislature. The real estate industry, with all of its money and influence, mounts. I send in my $20. Dear individual members, you may be aware rent control, rent stabilization, and co-op condo conversion laws expire every 2 years unless renewed by the state legislature. The real estate industry, with all of its money and influence, mounts ferocious campaigns to oppose or weaken these laws, making passage of new pro-tenant legislation difficult. Poor enforcement of tenant protections, apartment warehousing, and sky-high rents spell trouble for tenants. Our work is cut out for us. New York State Tenant Neighborhood Coalition gives its membership a lobbying presence in Albany and wherever tenant rights are at risk. Well, they certainly did a good job last June, about 3-4 weeks ago, getting the Emergency Tenant Protection Act renewed, this time for 4 years. We need your dues to maintain and expand our activities. We appreciate your support. Sincerely, Stanley Panasoff, Membership Officer, New York State Tenants Neighborhood Coalition. Folks, here's the envelope that the CBS annual report came in. And here's a glance at the annual report. There's its CEO, Lawrence Tisch, the one who bought the controlling shares in CBS toward the end of Paley's. This is about some of their programs. And here's about the money. And here is a stock certificate. CBS television stock is CBS Inc. stock is very expensive. It's $281. Gannett is about, well, it's 49 now. It was 52 2-3 weeks ago, and when I bought it, it was only 42. That was a couple of years ago. But now, about CBS television, you knew, of course, that I was on the CBS television network, coast to coast. I was on the Family Feud for 10 times, 10 30-second spots. Christmas week of 1992 and New Year's week of 1992. And along about March, I began to think of another flight on network television to advertise Glendora TV ads. We've done very well with that. We started really down low, like the late night. That's about the cheapest spot there is. That's about a couple of $100. Per 30 seconds, and then we went to the Today Show and Good Morning America and the CBS Morning News, and then we did 2 years on the 6 p.m. news. 6 p.m. news is dynamite, let me tell you. That's really a good property. And some of those were on WCBS TV and some of them were on WNBC TV. And then we graduated to primetime in New York. We did 2 years on primetime in New York on the 10 p.m. news, Channel 11, WPIX TV. You remember those. And so we started with the network. And the first network we bought was this Family Feud, the 10 spots. And it was one commercial, the same commercial played 10 times. Along about March, we started to negotiate with both NBC TV and CBS TV about another group of spots, another flight, as they call it. And Matt Steinfeld and Marty Daly at CBS TV in sales began to give me very peculiar answers, like they didn't know if the Family Feud was going to be on in July. This is when we wanted this for. We wanted this for July. They didn't know if it was going to be on in July, and they didn't know but what that time might be going back to the local stations. So every time I called up, I never really could get a really straight answer. And that buy on CBS television for those 10 spots cost about $30,000. And I think it came down, I don't know, I remember writing in a check for something like $25,000. That would be the with the commission out for being a television advertising agency. And then they asked for background on Glendora TV ads. And I sent him that and told him that Glendora has done nothing but television since television started in 1951. She started in TV as a mimeograph operator in the script service department of NBC TV Sunset and Vine and witnessed the move out of that building of the Red Network, which became ABC, because the United States government split up the two NBC networks as violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act. NBC used to have the Red Network and the Blue Network, and the government ruled that that was antitrust. In fact, Glendora started in TV the same time as Mr. Paley did. After working for General Electric, when General Electric Broadcasting owned only 5 O&Os, that's owned and operated stations, and before General Electric bought NBC, Glendora started her own business after realizing you cannot get rich working for somebody else. And this was in 1976. Her first account was Miles Laboratories. It was a very interesting product. It was a vegetarian hot dog, no cholesterol hot dog. Glendora has always run her business payment up front because she likes to be free and independent and not owe anybody any money. She usually pays up front too. That means that before I put anybody on the air, we have their check and their check is cleared, or we have their cash. She would rather not have the business than worry about being paid later. Glendora's commercials are in a collection at the Museum of Television and Radio. Anything else? It surprises me that you have not seen these commercials on the air right here in your own market. Well, that's true, these people who work in Manhattan. They don't really, they work in television, they make a livelihood in television, but they don't watch television. A lot of it is due, of course, to commuting. They're commuting to New Jersey, or they're commuting to Connecticut, or to Westchester, or to Nassau County, and so they don't get a chance to watch television. So I sent them all of the, here is the payment. I've forgotten what those spots cost individually. Oh, here's what it was. It was $27,250, and I sent them something like $23,162, but I remember sending them more than that. But, oh, the spots were $2,200. That's what they were, $2,200 a piece per 30 seconds. Then in addition to that, they charge you a networking charge, which is an archaic thing, and it really isn't legal. They charge you $250 for putting each spot onto the network. That's why this comes out short. Yeah, the agency commission was $4,088. And here is the flight. These are the dates and the times, and the commercial that ran, and what program it was. And they were all Family Feud. And they wanted to see the letter that we wrote to people who answered the ad. And they had all kinds of things they wanted changed about the commercial. Matt Steinfeld, account executive, CBS TV daytime sales, room 324351 West 57th Street, New York, New York 100117. That's Black Rock. That's what they call Black Rock. It's on 50. It's on 6, between 51st and 52nd, or is it 52nd and 53rd? You requested a letter from us telling what we do say to people who answer our ads on TV to get business to advertise on TV through Glendora TV ads. Different letters go out for different packages: New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, Boston, etc. Network or local, syndicated, primetime, or sports, early fringe or late fringe, local news, daytime, etc. We cannot send you all the different packages, which vary by price and numbers of viewers for all of the different hours on the days of the week, months of the year, from all of our suppliers like WNBC TV, WABC TV, WPIX TV, WWOR TV, and the other 230 TV markets across the United States. First, we see what the caller has to advertise and decide if it is something we want to be associated with, and if it is the type of thing broadcast standards will clear. Then we try to find out how much money they have budgeted for TV. Then we try to find out the demographics on their customers. Then we put together a package for them based on our readings of the market at 5 p.m. the day before. We enclose one of the packages for the New York market. If somebody called from the New York market, we would talk along these lines. All the other markets and the networks would have similar setups with different prices and numbers. You get it? Glendora TV Ads has been advertising Glendora TV Ads. That's the thing I just told you about, for 6 years. Warning, if we don't get this resolved in a week, I will have to give my $30,000 cash to NBC TV. I have to make this buy now, or I will have to wait a whole year for the market to be right. The best time to buy is December. and maybe the first week in January. That's when the prices are the lowest because the demand for airtime is the lowest. The department stores have blown all of their money for Christmas, because if they don't make it in Christmas, they don't make it the whole year round. And so after Christmas, the prices drop because fewer people are advertising on TV, but it's the best time to advertise on TV because the HUT level is the highest. HUT is homes using television. So the HUT level is the highest because the weather is bad outside and people are home and they are watching TV. And that sets us up for today's joke. At the retirement party, the president of the company said, "To honor your many years with the company, we have had this watch specially made for you. It needs a lot of winding up. It is always a little late, and every day at 4:45 it quits working." Glendora's done nothing but television since television started in 1951. Okay, and that was notarized by Andrew Spano's chief notary. So we sent that to them, and that seemed to satisfy them. Then they came back, the person who clears copy there, his name's Robert Lowry, and then he came back with 2 questions. And he said, how can you promise them a price? And the answer to that is you cannot promise them a price. These prices are very, very negotiable. If you buy a piece of airtime for $2,500, a 30-second spot at 4:30 in the afternoon, and at 4:45 somebody else calls up and says, "I'll give you $2,800 for it," then they cancel. The TV station cancels. You can't promise a price, but you can give them the price at the moment that you're talking to them. It's just like gold. You can't tell what the price of gold is going to be in 2 weeks, or what the price of a stock is going to be in 2 weeks. Or bonds. But you can give them price at the moment you're talking to them, and then you can tell them, this is the price now. What it will be at the time you're going to order, nobody knows. All right, so that's satisfied. And the second question was, how do you know that the commercial will be cleared? You don't know the commercial will be cleared. So you tell the client that you will submit the commercial to the broadcast network or the broadcast TV station, the local station, and you will see what they say. If they approve it, that's fine. They may want to make changes. So then you come back to the client and you say, well, WNBC TV wants you to do this, they want you to say this, and they want you to say this, and you can't say this, and you've got to do this, and so forth. And then you renegotiate it with the client. So you can't say, how do you know that the commercial will be cleared. But you negotiate it. It's a highly negotiable thing, and of course we've been doing it for 30 years, and they like us because we pay cash up front. They like the money, and so we're pretty good at getting things through. CBS Broadcast Group, here is those 2 questions in writing. Fully understanding the complexities of gaining airtime on any station or network, how can you guarantee a customer an air date on any particular day or week, i.e. you will be on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon? Second question, by what mechanism can you tell what the TV station or network will and will not approve? At this network and at our owned and operated stations, only the commercial clearance personnel can determine in the end what is or is not approved for broadcast, not the advertising agency. Please discuss. It is important that the viewer understand that your service is in no manner associated with the CBS network sales or any other station sales department. That's right, I have my pride. To accomplish this, the commercial must make it very clear exactly what services are being promoted. This commercial must disclose that Glendora TV Ads is an advertising agency, time buyer. Please disclose in the commercial that the phone number is a toll call and the address of your organization. Robert L. Lowry, CBS Broadcast Group, CBS TV, 51 West 52nd Street, etc. Dear Mr. Lowry, Glendora TV Ads instantly complies with all 5 of your requirements. You are right, the price of airtime cannot be guaranteed. After 42 years in television, I at least know that. And then I gave him the answer I gave you. 2, you are also right about commercial clearance. Nobody can guarantee what an editor will clear. We tell people that at the start, but I have never been unable to negotiate with broadcast standards the clearance of a commercial. And it's the rest of the answer I told you. We will put up a video disclaimer that Glendora TV Ads is an advertising agency time buyer. How long does it have to be up there? 3 seconds? How large do the letters have to be? And do you want us also to say, in no manner associated with CBS network sales or any other station sales department? Please be very specific about what you want and let us know fast. Because this week we will be making these additions to the videotape, and it is very expensive and we do not wish to do it over again. We will put up our address. How long do you want it up there? 3 seconds? We put up there, this may be a toll call. How long do you want it up there? 3 seconds. Yours truly, Glendora. Copy to Matt Steinfeld. Lowry sent back these production standards for supers, horizontal crawls. Video supers. All video supers should adhere to the following standards so that they are large and clear enough to be read by the average viewer. The minimum height of super should be capital and lowercase letters, 24 video scan lines. Capital letters only, 18 video scan lines. The minimum length of time a super appears on the screen must be 1 line, 2 seconds, 2 lines, 3 seconds, 3 lines, 5 seconds. Supers over 3 lines in length are subject to editorial discretion. Lettering should be clear and contrasting. Edge drop shadowing is encouraged when it enhances legibility. Horizontal crawl, that doesn't apply. I didn't have a horizontal crawl. You know, that's when it goes across the bottom of the screen. So we went to the production house and we had all of those things done, and we sent them to Mr. Lowry, and he said it was wonderful, it was more than adequate. So the commercial was cleared and the flight went on. It was a very good flight. And then, as I say, along about March, we started thinking about a second flight on network television daytime, and we called CBS, and then we got all of these queer answers. And then one day, Matt Steinfeld said that Matthew Margot said that that commercial would not be cleared. And I had submitted a new commercial. He said the commercial would not be cleared, and it was not going to be broadcast. Well, that was sort of funny, don't you think? They'd already broadcast it 10 times. Not cleared, then you do it over. And you keep doing it over until you get something that the TV station does clear. So there was something very, very funny going on. Nobody was going to say what it was. And Matt Steinfeld stopped returning calls, and Marty Daly couldn't be reached. And so finally I called Matthew Margot, who was Robert Lowry's boss, I guess, and I told him that I wanted to know what was going on. Who said that the commercial wouldn't be cleared? Why wasn't it going to be cleared? When was it said that it wasn't going to be cleared? Those were the answers that I wanted, and everything's on audio tape. It's all recorded. March the 25th, 1993, Thursday, at 12:15 p.m., I received a call from the CBS television network, the broadcast group, and it was Beth Bresson. And I would like to play you that conversation. Glendora calls her back, Beth Bresson, and Bresson runs away, and she refuses to come to the phone, and the secretary refuses to give Glendora Howard Stringer's number. Howard Stringer is Beth Bresson's boss, and the secretary keeps hanging up on Glendora, and Glendora keeps redialing, and that happened 4 times. Then the third audio tape was more of the same, and the fourth one was at 12:21 p.m., 6 minutes later. Glendora talks to Virginia Garrity, who is the secretary to Howard Stringer, and complains about Bresson and about the insult, and wants Stringer to hear the recording of Bresson, and that happened 7 minutes ago. At that point, the Reverend Dr. Charles Peter Calcani calls Glendora in the middle of this Stringer call. While Garrity is off the line, Glendora is on hold. And Glendora redials Garrity, resumes the telling about Bresson, emphasizes that Bresson said it should be put in writing, and something CBS has not done to this day. And Garrity, do you want Mr. Stringer to call you? Glendora, yes. Glendora says Bresson is talking about a commercial CBS will not air, but CBS has already aired the commercial 10 times, and they have not been asked to air another commercial. Glendora tells Garrity today's joke. Glendora enters the telephone charges and calls Calcani, and Glendora calls Neil Pilson's office, the president of CBS Sports. Glendora leaves a message on Steinfeld's recorder, please call Glendora, which he never did. Glendora calls Steinfeld again, secretary answers and says he is not in. Glendora is 95% sure he is in. Please call, and he never did. At 12:51 p.m. on the next day, March the 26th, 93, Friday, Glendora, is Mr. Stringer there, secretary? He's on the phone. Glendora tells of the bad verbal beating by Bresson. Secretary asks what about. Glendora is generally nonplussed as to what it is about. Nobody will give her the information. They keep running away. Glendora says this is leading to an action in the Westchester Supreme Court. Mary, secretary, said Stringer will call back, but it may take time, sir. Glendora says, I'm a lady, not a sir. 35 days, and Stringer has never called back, nor has anybody else. 1:15 p.m. on March the 26th, 93, Friday. Glendora calls Lowry. He's the one who cleared the commercial that I told you about. And they talk. Glendora is thinking of sending him a new tape, but does not mention it. He mentioned nothing about the Bresnan mess. Glendora tells Lowry that her jokes went on TV in England and later went on TV in Europe. Glendora tells Lowry that Sales does not know what programs will be on the air in July and August, ergo she cannot place an order. 5:10 p.m. on Saturday, March the 27th, Franklin Buell calls Bresson and tells her on his recorder that she should answer the questions and stop dodging and please call Glendora. Previously, Buell told Steinfeld and Daly the same thing on their recorders. And Glendora calls Bresson and Steinfeld, please call. These are both on 3/30/93, Tuesday. Glendora calls Howard Stringer. He is not available. Please call. What is this about? Glendora is treated rudely, unprofessionally by Beth Bresson. Glendora wants to know who started this alleged complaint, when, what is the complaint, what is the motive, what is the proof. Glendora says if they do not answer, she will have to take them to court and get them under oath and get the truth. This is the third time Glendora says she has called Stringer. Secretary is Barbara Enish, who has been on vacation for 3 weeks. Glendora leaves a message on Margot recorder. What is this alleged complaint? Who made it? When? And Glendora wants to see the proof. You and the others are dodging court and told them again about court, getting them under oath to tell the truth. And please call Glendora. Deborah Failing called Glendora. Glendora asked what her job was. I'm a temporary for the day. She wanted Glendora's fax number. Glendora said she didn't want anything to come by fax. She was calling for Lowry. He wanted to send her a statement, Deborah said. And Glendora says, all right, then send it to Box 532, Scarsdale, New York. Glendora asked her to read it to her over the telephone, and Deborah did. It did not answer the questions at all. It was not sufficient. Glendora told Deborah that Lowry and Margot were covering up, and they were hiding, and they were running away. Well, this was what was said over the telephone. Glendora TVS, Box 532, Scarsdale, New York, phone conversations, Glendora to Beth Bresson the week of March the 22nd, 1993. Approval withheld. And I hadn't even submitted a commercial. How do you figure that one out? Something's going on. This report is issued at the request of Beth Bresson, Vice President and Assistant to the President, in order to clarify the position of the CBS television network in respect to its withdrawal of broadcast approval. Well, this is what Deborah said. This eventually came to me in the mail. Broadcast Group, Glendora TV Ads, Box 532, Scarsdale, New York. Robert L. Lowry. Phone conversations, Glendora to Beth Bresson. Approval withheld. That's very interesting, because nothing was submitted. And it had already been approved, wasn't it? This report is issued at the request of Beth Bresson, Vice President and Assistant to the President, in order to clarify the position of the CBS television network in respect to its withdrawal of broadcast approval for the above commercial. I should think they'd be so ashamed to do that. It shows that they don't know what they're doing. In December 1992, the CBS Broadcast Group Senior Staff Executive Vice President and Senior Vice President of Network Sales determined that the commercial in question does not meet the high overall production quality standards necessary for broadcast on the network. Two things. How come they broadcast it on the network 10 times? Second thing, let's do it over. According to approval for broadcast was withdrawn at the end of the ongoing flight. Also, commercials which promote specialized services to a very narrow audience. Also, commercials which promote specialized services to a very narrow audience, such as those provided by Glendora TV ads, are inappropriate for network broadcast and will not be accepted for broadcast in the future. Okay, let's look at that. Who advertises on television for people to advertise on WCBS TV? WCBS TV. You've seen their ads on television. Folks, increase your sales, buy TV advertising, call so-and-so at WCBS TV sales. You've seen that. And you've heard on WCBS AM, the radio station, increase your sales, advertise on WCBS AM. These people are caught in a very blatant lie. Now what's going on? Thank you for your cooperation. Robert Lowry. Now truly I feel sorry for Robert Lowry. He's at the bottom of the totem pole and he's being forced to do this by his boss, Matthew Margot, by his boss, Beth Bresson, and by somebody's boss that they're not going to reveal. Again, is who is behind this? And what is the motivation? And when did this all start? It was so cowardly of Matthew Margot to hide behind a woman, also a temporary, and a one-day temporary at that. And this she called at 9 a.m. with the message that I just read you. And then at 1 p.m. the same day, Deborah calls for Margot, saying that Margot does not know the answers to Glendora's questions and for Glendora to deal with Lowry and with Bresson. Glendora tells Debbie it is a runaway. Glendora calls Bresson. She is in hiding. Glendora left the same message about the rotten structure will come tumbling down. Lowry calls Glendora. Lowry, you talked to Beth and Margot. Margot asked me to call. As to who started it and the motivation, Glendora, what you sent does not answer the questions. Allegation or complaints, no documentation, can't answer, erratic way for CBS to act. Lowry, people who made the decision are up above, way above. Glendora, court, tells him again about, then we'll have to take you all to court, put you under oath until the truth comes out. Lowry, Matthew Margot did not avoid your calls. Glendora, did he return one of my calls? No. And Lowry says, I do not hear you well. This is a bad connection. Yes, the CBS phone was not in good transmission. You will hear that on the audio tape. This is the audio tape right here. It's 45 minutes and then about 15 minutes on the other side. Glendora, Margot knows more than he is saying. Lowry. Margot reports to Bresson. Glendora, Margot knows more than he is saying. Margot reports to Bresson. Glendora, I have to get on the bottom of this. I have to get to the bottom of this. Margot and you hid behind a one-day temporary. Lowry excuses this. Glendora, has he ever got back to me? Thursday, Friday, Monday, and Tuesday, has he ever got back to me? Glendora to Lowry, I'm sorry. I'm sorry they are putting you through this. Later, Lowry said, you are falsely accusing him. Glendora, I am not falsely accusing him. Has he ever got back to me? Lowry dodges. Glendora, has he ever got back to me? Lowry dodges. Glendora repeats. Lowry finally acknowledges, no, Margot hasn't. Glendora, I rest my case. Glendora said, I know what I'm going to do, and the whole rotten structure is going to come tumbling down. 6:25 p.m., March the 31st, 1993, Wednesday, Glendora calls Stringer, his name is Stringer, and leaves the same message, when, what, and what was the motive. 6:26 p.m., Glendora calls Margot. He answers. Margot, the decision was made outside of the program practices. Margot to Glendora, I know it is a tough one to swallow. Margot says they acted in good faith, were complaints, and they did advise Matt Steinfeld. Well now, I question all this, and over again I said I want to see these complaints. I want them substantiated. I want to either hear them on tape or I want to see them in writing. Frankly, I don't believe there were complaints. Glendora, you cannot make such allegations without substantiation. Glendora, do you have an inkling? Margot, I got calls from Beth Bresson. And then Margot said it was something about, it was a courtesy to me to let the flight continue. Well, now, that's just plain, I'm trying to think of a better word than baloney. That's just verification. It was no courtesy at all. CBS had my $25,000 cash up front, and they weren't going to let go of it. That's what it was about. This decision, Margot says, was not sucked out of the air. Glendora, I want to see the documentation. Bresson ran off like a coward. You cannot slander people. You cannot damage their business. You cannot damage their reputation. Margot, Bresson is a nice person. Glendora refutes that. Hear her recording. She's dehumanized. Margot, you are being unfair. There were complaints. Glendora, have you heard them? Do you know what they were? Margot, no. Glendora, then that is hearsay. Margot, no point in making a judgment. Glendora, I've been with CBS longer than you have. I know why management does these irrational things. CBS is straight down the middle, Margot says. Glendora, about hiding behind a temporary? Margot, jammed in, preparing to go away on a trip. That's their trouble. They are never on the job. Absenteeism. Margot, I asked Lowry to call as a courtesy. Glendora, that is a recorded announcement. What attempt did you make after that to get back to me? Margot makes a long dodge. Glendora waits for him to finish. Glendora, issue. What attempt did you make to get back to me? Margot dodges again. Glendora repeats. What attempt did you make to get back to me? Margot, the decision was made extrinsically. Extrinsically. The decision was made extrinsically. Glendora, back to the issue. What attempt, etc. Margot, I asked Lowry. Glendora, okay, I rest my point. I've given you all the time I'm going to give you, meaning a week. Good night. It was 6:45 p.m. and Glendora and Franklin had to leave to get to church by 7 p.m. for the potluck Lenten supper and a discussion on good and evil into which CBS fit perfectly. This was the last call Glendora made to CBS. She made her decisions to start the lawsuit, the summons was noticed in the complaint, and it took a very long time to write it out. Together the paper exhibits and together the audio taped evidence. May the 3rd, 1993, Monday, she had it served on the defendants, and she bought the index number and submitted it to the county clerk at a cost of $170, almost the price of CBS TV network integration charge, which is a ripoff. Glendora, and it's notarized by Andrew Spanos, official notary, Francis Harrison.
your title?
Vice President and Assistant to the President of the CBS Broadcast Group.
Vice President and Assistant to the CBS.
President of the CBS Broadcast Group.
President, and who is that?
Howard Stringer.
CBS Broadcast Group. Howard Stringer. Now, what matters do you handle for Mr. Stringer? What matters?
Primarily, my responsibilities are program practices, East Coast and West Coast, and my capacity of program practices head on the East Coast.
Wait, ma'am, I'm waiting.
Commercial clearance.
Wait a second. Program practices on East Coast and West Coast. And then what was that last thing you said?
I'm calling in my capacity as head of program practices, and the East Coast, we handle the commercial clearance.
In capacity as head of program practices, and you're calling about commercial clearance. Okay. All right, now who gave you my number?
You called Matthew Margot. He reports to me.
Okay, Margot reports to you. All right, thank you very much. I'm ready to listen.
Well, you had a question as to why we refused the commercials. There are really basically two reasons.
Oh, wait just a second. You haven't refused the commercial. No, do you know that? You have not refused the commercial.
No, we're going to, and I'm going to explain to you why. Because the broadcast quality is not good. It is
wait just a
quality
second.
up.
Wait,
No, I'm not going to wait, ma'am.
You're not. What do you mean you're not going to wait?
You can listen, and you can...
I can make notes. Now, don't you tell me I don't have a right to make notes.
Fine, but I don't have to spend an hour on this conversation while you take down every word I say. Now, we are not going to air your commercials because the broadcast quality is not of the quality we are used to, and second of all, because your message is limited really to the media, and you can reach them other ways. They're not really appropriate messages for our viewing audience. That's the two reasons on which we're going to reject your commercials in the future. We had complaints about them when we ran them in the past, and we don't intend to run them in the future.
I want documentation of any complaint.
I don't have to provide...
Oh, yes, you do. Well, then it'll be subpoenaed, okay? Because you people are going straight to the Westchester County Supreme Court. I do not appreciate your attitude, and I do not appreciate your allegations. Everything that you have said to me has to be documented, and you have been recorded, and you're being recorded now. Thursday, and you heard her hang up. And so now we will call her right back.
Beth Bress's office?
Yes, this is Glendora.
I'm sorry, Miss Bresson has just gone into a meeting.
Oh, I know. She's running away just as fast as she can run, and I'm calling Howard Stringer. Now, I want to know why did she hang up on me, and why didn't she finish her message to me?
Okay, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, now I would like to have Mr. Howard Stringer's number, please.
Hold on just a second.
Never mind, I'll get it from the switchboard. Did you hear the secretary say to Beth Bresson she wants to know why you hung up on her?
Just one moment, please.
You hung up on me again.
Just one moment, please. Beth Bresson's office?
You hung up on me again.
No, I didn't hang up on you.
Oh, yes, you
Wanted to
did.
call back.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, you did. You hung up on me again.
This is not Beth.
I understand that.
I think she's going to me when you said...
Oh, no, she hasn't. She was right there because you said she wants to know why you hung up on her. So she hasn't gone into any meeting at that point. You were talking to her.
I have to get another call. I have 3 phones.
Okay, so you're gonna hang up again. All right, go ahead. It's all recorded.
Well, do you want to leave a message?
Yes, I want to leave a message. I want her to call me up. I want her to act like a lady. I want her to act like a professional. I'd like to have her act like a...
She's all of the above. I guarantee you she's all of
You're
the above.
interrupting me, and I would like to have her act like somebody employed by CBS. I And I would like to have her put everything that she said to me in writing. CBS Television, Howard Stringer's office, please.
Oh, this is Beth Bresson.
Oh, okay. Let me call the general switchboard. What is Howard Stringer's number, please?
Okay, well, may I help you? You'll get...
Oh, never mind. I'll call the switchboard. I want to say number. 975-4321. Okay, she hung up 4 times.
Beth Bresson's office?
Yes. What is Howard Stringer's number?
I don't know. I have it, Gene. Thank you. 975-5762. Shall I connect you?
Yes, please. I have a complaint, please. I have a complaint about,
Okay, could you hold on for a minute, please?
I have a complaint about Beth Bresson.
Could you hold on for a minute, please?
Yes, and for what, please? Okay, time is 12:21 p.m. March the 25th, 1993, Thursday. Bresson has hung up 4 times.
Hi, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right. I have a complaint about Beth Bresson.
Okay.
She called up, she was rude, she was immature, she was puerile. Pardon me?
Who is it?
My name is Glendora, Glendora.
Uh-huh.
Would you like my number?
Please.
Okay, 914-949-9495. And I own Glendora TV ads, and we were on CBS Television Network at Christmas and New Year's. We had 10 spots on there.
Uh-huh.
And she called up and made allegations, and she insulted me, and she was very rude and abrasive. Here, I have a recording of it. I want Mr. Stringer to hear the recording. It's just unbelievable that anybody from CBS could act that way. This happened at about 7 minutes ago. She made when I requested documentation of her allegations, she was very abrupt in refusing them and very unprofessional. And I think this is going to result in a lawsuit in Westchester Supreme Court. Could you hold up? Hold the phone just a second, please. Good morning, 9495. Good afternoon.
Would you please find out what it is, either morning or afternoon? I think it's really noon.
Would you just give me a second? Are you going to be there, and can I call you back?
You certainly may.
Oh, thank you so much.
And you're known as Miss Fast anyway, because you're... Okay.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry about that. Are you there with me? Oh, I don't know if anybody was on the line or not. Ginny. Okay, let's... Well, I'm glad I got a recording of this, so I'll know what happened. Now I am calling Howard Stringer's office. Yeah, I was on hold. I don't know if anybody was listening to me or not. And now there's nobody on the line.
Hello?
Hello, what happened to you?
I was on hold. I have a job here.
Okay, where did you, how much did you hear of what I said?
You were going to record something, then you put me on hold. You were going to play a recording?
Oh, yeah, no, I can't play it to you.
Oh.
I can play it to you, but I'll have to set up another recording because I'm recording this. All right, what was the last thing I said to you? That I'm going to...
Last thing you said was hold on, you were taking another call.
Oh, yes, okay, thank you. I'm sorry about that. All right, that's over with.
You want Mr. Stringer to call you? Is that what?
Yes, I would like Mr. Stringer to call me, and I would also like to get through to Bresson that everything she said should be put in writing. And I'd like to have her put in writing what she said, and not to avoid it, not to eschew it, but to put it in writing.
Okay, I will tell her that.
Okay, now the fact is that she said she's not going to air the commercials. She hasn't been asked to air any commercials, and the next fact is that the commercials have been aired. And she says they are against their broadcast standards, and my question is to her, if they were against their broadcast standards, how come they've been broadcast 10 times, and how come they went through standards? So something is very, very clear.
Okay.
Something's very strange. Would you mind telling me your name?
Virginia Garrity.
Nice to meet you. That's a good Irish name.
Right.
And I'll tell you today's joke. What do you call a miniature guppy?
What is that?
A microfiche.
Oh.
Thank you very much, Virginia Garrity. Okay.
Okay.
And Mr. Stringer will call me.
Yes.
Thank you. Bye. Okay. Charges. And then I'm going to call Mr. Kilkenny, Dr. Kilkenny. Okay, I want to record that this all is 12:27 p.m. and I hung up with Garrity at about 12:25 p.m. The date is March the 25th, 1993, Thursday. And I first of all going to put down all the telephone call charges, and then I'll call Mr. Kilkenny, and that's a big bomb for today. Stringer, Executive Vice President and Senior Vice President, Network Sales. Beth Bresson, Matthew Margot, Marty Daly, and Matt Steinfeld. Summons with notice. Index number 93, 1993, that is 08469. And the date is May the 3rd. That means that the county clerk has taken 8,469 lawsuits by May the 3rd, 1993. To the above-named defendants, you are hereby summoned to answer the complaint in this action and to serve a copy of your answer within 20 days after the service of this summons, exclusive of the day of service, and in case of your failure to answer, judgment will be taken against you by default for the relief demanded herein. May 3rd, 1993, White Plains, New York. Defendant's addresses, CBS Inc., 51 West 52nd Street, New York, New York, 10019. Glendora, Box 532, Scarsdale, New York, 10583-914-949-9495. Notice, the nature of this action is damages for the negligent handling of Glendora's business account, for damage to Glendora's reputation and to her ability to get business, and for negligent infliction of emotional distress, and for expenses and fees incurred. The relief sought is money damages. Upon your failure to answer, judgment will be taken against you by default for the sum of $110,000 with interest from March the 23rd, 1993, Tuesday, in the cost of this action. Of network sales, Beth Bresson and Matt Steinberg are negligent in saying that Glendora's TV commercial does not meet CBS program practices when said commercial had already been cleared by CBS program practices. This negligence occurred on March the 24th, 1993, Wednesday. 2, Beth Bresson was negligent in saying that Glendora's TV commercial does not meet CBS program practices when said commercial had already been broadcast on CBS TV coast to coast 10 times in December 1992. Beth Bresson was negligent in saying to Glendora that your commercial is not going to be cleared when Glendora was not asking CBS TV to clear a commercial. Beth Bresson, Matthew Margot, and Matt Steinberg were negligent in saying CBS had complaints about the commercial without substantiating these alleged complaints. Bresson, Margot, and Steinberg were negligent in not providing Glendora the documentation and proof of these complaints when Glendora requested names, addresses, telephone numbers, recordings, and letters of any alleged complaints. Who allegedly complained? What was the alleged complaint? And when was the alleged complaint made? To this day, these questions have not been answered, not orally and not in writing. They should be able to prove their statements that there were complaints. Beth Bresson is negligent in saying that CBS will never clear any Glendora commercial. A commercial that is not, quote, up to broadcast standard, unquote, can be put up to broadcast standard. A commercial that is not up to broadcast quality can be put up to broadcast quality. Beth Bresson is negligent in closing the door to negotiating in a free and open marketplace. It begins to sound like a monopoly, doesn't it? And it begins to sound like antitrust. CBS Inc., Howard Stringer, Beth Bresson, Matthew Margot, Marty Daly, and Matt Steinfeld are negligent in abusing the public's airwaves. These airwaves do not belong to CBS. Stringer, Bresson, Margot, Daly, or Steinfeld. These airwaves belong to the public.
and only with the public's consent are CBS Incorporated, Stringer, Bresson, Margot, Daly, and Steinfeld allowed to use these airwaves. Doing it and saying that Glendora's commercials advertising Glendora TV ads cannot be broadcast to the public because they are about the media, when CBS itself broadcasts commercials asking the public to advertise on WCBS TV, its very own TV station. And when CBS itself broadcasts commercials asking the public to advertise on WCBS AM, its very own radio station. CBS Inc., Beth Bresson, Matthew Margot, Marty Daly, and Matt Steinfeld are negligent in damaging Glendora's reputation. Glendora has done nothing but TV commercials for 42 years since TV started, as long as CBS Inc. itself has been doing TV commercials. And she certainly knows how to make a broadcast quality commercial. CBS Incorporated, Beth Bresson, Matthew Margot, Marty Daly, and Matt Steinfeld are negligent in damaging Glendora's income and ability to get new business by capriciously, frivolously, and dishonestly trumping up false excuses to keep Glendora's commercials from being broadcast. CBS Inc., Beth Bresson, Matthew Margot, Marty Daly, and Matt Steinfeld are negligent to treat a good, honest, reliable CBS customer in such a savage fashion. Glendora, in all good faith, paid CBS $30,000 cash up front for those 10 spots that were broadcast on CBS TV coast to coast Christmas week and New Year's week 1992. Matthew Margot is negligent in prefabricating the excuse, quote, "They let them, the commercials, continue as a courtesy to you." Courtesy to Glendora. Greedy CBS had Glendora's cash of $30,000 and didn't want to let it leave their clutches. CBS Inc., Beth Bresson, Matthew Margot, Marty Daly, and Matt Steinfeld were negligent. In deceptively eschewing the answer to Glendora's question as to who started this complaint. There was a cover-up, misrepresentation, and deviousness. CBS Inc., Beth Bresson, Matthew Margot, Marty Daly, and Matt Steinberg were negligent in heaping this abuse upon Glendora without any prior notice. This was willful intent to injure. Howard Stringer is negligent in allowing this odious treatment of a good CBS customer, cash up front $30,000 plus tens of thousands of dollars to WCBS TV, 1983 to 1990, or of any human being to happen, and then to make no amends after his office was informed of this outrageous, abusive, and malicious attack. Howard Stringer is negligent 6 counts in not calling Glendora after she informed his office of the outrages being perpetrated by this negligent staff. All defendants are negligent in not putting this matter in writing, in intelligent, documented, and mature written form, and of trying to get away with oral insinuations, innuendo, and hearsay. Beth Bresson is negligent in allowing malice to control her behavior over the telephone. The audio tape of her attitude and of her words from the call Bresson made to Glendora is in Howard Stringer's envelope with a summons, with notice and complaint. This audio tape tells the story as it happened, just the way the Rodney King videotape tells the story. Beth Bresson is negligent to hang up on the phone without explaining what is going on. Beth Bresson is negligent not to come to the phone when Glendora called her back. Glendora's speakerphone picked up the words between Bresson and her secretary, which clearly showed that Bresson was there and able to take Glendora's call. This is also on audio tape. A speakerphone reaches deep into an office. Beth Bresson is negligent to slander Glendora and to malign Glendora and to injure Glendora. All defendants are negligent to deny Glendora access to the public's airwaves. All defendants are negligent to display such arrogance, such rudeness, such crudeness. Hear the audio tape. Glendora versus CBS is David and Goliath. If there are any complaints as alleged, Glendora had and has a right to see those complaints in writing and has a right to respond to any such alleged complaints. This is the United States of America after all. Bresnan was negligent to give foolish reasons and to refuse to back them up with substantiation. Bresnan was tongue-tied when legitimate questions were asked. All defendants are negligent in discriminating against Glendora. All defendants are negligent in causing Glendora infliction of emotional distress. All defendants are negligent in not telling the truth, covering up, trying to run away, trying to ignore the issue, and therefore are unable to justify their actions. CBS Howard Stringer, the Executive Vice President and Senior Vice President, Network Sales. You notice they never named them? This is all they give you. The Executive Vice President and Senior Vice President, Network Sales. Beth Bresson, Matthew Margot, Marty Daly, and Matt Steinberg were and are negligent in ignoring Glendora's repeated questions: who started this, when was it started, and why was it started. These defendants were and are still negligent in thinking they could simply run away and hide and get away with this egregious irresponsibility. What was the motive? Glendora asked repeatedly. These defendants were negligent repeatedly in not answering. These defendants were negligent in not naming the executive vice president and the senior vice president of network sales. Who are they? Further, these defendants were negligent of botched operations. First, to approve a commercial. Responsibility. What was the motive? Glendora asked repeatedly. These defendants were negligent repeatedly in not answering. These defendants were negligent in not naming the executive vice president and the senior vice president of network sales. Who are they? Further, these defendants were negligent of botched operations. First, to approve a commercial for broadcast it 10 times and say it was not fit for broadcast. They are obviously negligent in not knowing what they are doing and in collecting their pay for it. CBS, Howard Stringer, Beth Bresson, Matthew Margot, Marty Daly, and Matt Steinfeld, in not returning Glendora's repeated calls to them and in hiding behind a one-day temporary officewoman, a temp as they are called. That is about as negligent and irresponsible as anybody can get. Her name is Deborah. Enclosed are exhibits of the approval of Glendora's commercial, the contract, Glendora's payment of the 10/32 commercials, the screwy March the 29th, 1993 paper, etc. Dated May the 3rd, 1993, White Plains, New York, Glendora, and is notarized by Francis Harrison, who is Andrew Spano's official notary. They answered on time, and they didn't give any silly arguments like personal jurisdiction and say the service was defective. Well, they did give silly arguments, but not those two. And CBS bought the judge. They paid for the request for judicial intervention. Their lawyer is Douglas P. Jacobs. The judge cost $75. And this is his notice of motion. It's kind of an interesting way to do it instead of the paragraph form. The date, time, and place, the return date is June the 14th, 1993, Westchester County Courthouse, 111 Grove Street. The relief requested is to dismiss, naturally, the complaint that I made. And the supporting papers is a memorandum of law, he says, and the answering papers should be served upon the undersigned at least 7 days prior to the return date hereof. Douglas P. Jacobs, attorney for defendant CBS Inc. To Glendora, plaintiff. And here is the blue back, so to speak, for the memorandum of law. In support of CBS defendant's motion to dismiss the plaintiff's complaint. Preliminary statement. Defendant CBS Inc., CBS, Howard Stringer, incorrectly sued here as Howard Springer. Beth Bresson, Matthew Margot. Defendant CBS Inc., Howard Stringer, Beth Bresson, Matthew Margot, Martin Daly, and Matthew Steinfeld. Submit this memorandum of law in support of their motion to dismiss this action against them for failure to state a cause of action. See what I tell you about you don't have to go to law school 3 years. You just have to spend 10 minutes and you have to look up two things, 308, service, and CPLR 3211A, no cause of action. That's all you have to do. You don't have to spend 3 years in law school. Plaintiff Glendora, proceeding pro se, has served a summons with notice and complaint in this action, which is incomprehensible and patently frivolous. It's too bad he doesn't have what it takes upstairs to understand plain English. The essence of plaintiff's complaint appears to be that she has a right to have her commercials broadcast over the CBS airwaves. Well, anyone does. She was defamed by statements made to her about herself. At this court lacks subject matter jurisdiction over plaintiff's first claim, which in any event is devoid of merit, and the plaintiff's second claim fails to allege publication of the defamation to a third party an essential element necessary to sustain a claim for defamation. I don't think that was my claim at all. Every lawyer does this, you know. They just can't read papers, and they can't understand plain English. This court lacks subject matter jurisdiction over plaintiff's first claim. It appears that the gravamen of plaintiff's first claim is that she has an absolute right to have her commercials aired by CBS, and that she is angry because CBS has determined the commercials do not meet CBS production quality standards. Well, why were they broadcast 10 times? And has refused to broadcast them. Plaintiff complains that the airwaves do not belong to CBS, and therefore CBS was negligent in denying plaintiff access to the public's airwaves. This isn't what we're saying at all. But that's what lawyers get paid for. They get paid for obfuscating and for putting up smoke screens and for not telling the truth and for distracting the court. The statutory procedure established by Congress in the Communications Act for Regulation of Broadcasting envisions initial consideration by the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, of all matters relating to broadcasting. And then he goes on and on in this, see, he goes on in this paragraph. Okay, in this next paragraph, the doctrine of primary jurisdiction arises out of the interest of judicial economy. And then in the second paragraph, plaintiff has no private right of action to enforce the Communications Act. Is that what my lawsuit was about? No, no. Even assuming arguendo that this court could entertain the plaintiff's claim, she still could not prevail on a claim that CBS defendants allegedly violated the Communications Act. This is not about the Communications Act. This is about negligences. Did you hear him mention negligences anywhere? That's what the cause of action is. How many counts were there of negligences? About 25. And so on he goes about the Federal Communications Act. Now you'd think around about argument 3 that he'd get down to the case. Plaintiff's claims that she was slandered by the CBS defendants should be dismissed. That isn't what the case is about. The case is about their being negligent and about negligent infliction of emotional distress. Nowhere does he deal with this. Not in this paragraph, this paragraph, this paragraph, or this paragraph. In the instant case, defendant Bresnan made the allegedly slanderous statements to Glendora in one or more telephone conversations which plaintiff recorded. That's good. They heard these. And then he talks about not communicating this to a third person. Well, I think he's wrong there. Not that it's initial. But it was communicated to a third person. Didn't Bresnan talk to Margot? Didn't Margot talk to Lowry? Didn't Lowry talk to Steinfeld? Didn't Steinfeld talk to Glendora? Conclusion: for the foregoing reasons, and whatever they are, the CBS defendants respectfully request that plaintiff's complaint be dismissed with prejudice. Douglas P. Jacobs, attorney for defendant CBS Inc. He actually lives and works there, too. He's not an outsider. That summons and notice with complaint was taken to Lawrence Tisch, who's the owner of CBS, you might say. And he has a home over here in Rye on Mansuring Drive, North Island Drive or whatever. And so that was taken over there to hand in to him, and it was on a Sunday afternoon, and he just left for Manhattan. He has an apartment in Manhattan, and he just left for Manhattan 10 minutes ago. But his son came down, and the guard there at the gate talked to the son, and the son says, yes, I'll give it to my father in the city. And then he was going right down to the city, and he would give it to his father. And it's too bad. We were hoping that Mr. Tisch would be the kind of a person that would see how bad all of this was and take care of it. But he didn't. He ignored it. This is Supreme Court of the State of New York, County of Westchester, Glendora plaintiff versus CBS Inc. Howard Stringer, Executive Vice President and Senior Vice President of Network Sales, Beth Bresson, Matthew Margot, Marty Daly, and Matt Steinfeld. And this is plaintiff's motion for default and/or summary judgment and to dismiss defendant's motion to dismiss plaintiff's complaint. Please take notice, etc. For the 14th day of June. Failure to answer the summons and complaint previously filed in this matter, and/or for summary judgment and for the court and and for the costs of this action, and for such other and further relief as this court may deem just and proper. And we got it in by June the 7th, and it was signed by a somebody in their mailroom, Sam Wilson, on June the 7th, 1993. And it's a wretched-looking place, Franklin says. It's just terrible. It's at Black Rock, but it's not at the main door. You have to go around to the side, and he says you go in there, and it isn't painted, and it isn't fixed up. And he says it's very dumpy. And so anyway, this was served on these people through Sam Wilson, and each one got a copy. And that's the proof of service. And by the way, this case went to Judge Rosado, Justice of the Supreme Court. Glendora, being duly sworn, opposes and says that my reasons for motioning the Supreme Court for a default judgment and to dismiss defendant's motion to dismiss plaintiff's complaint are as follows. Point A, defendants denied plaintiff due process. Defendants submitted their motion to dismiss Glendora's complaint to the county clerk and to the calendar clerk before serving Glendora. I happened to be around the county courthouse that day, and they were in there. Somebody, a woman from CBS, came up and bought the request for judicial intervention and paid cash for it, not a check. And then she handed in this paper that I just read you, their motion to dismiss. And then she went up to the calendar clerk and got the judge. Glendora was in the county clerk's office on the 3rd floor. The same hour defendants filed their motion to dismiss. Glendora was in the calendar clerk's office on the 8th floor and saw the defendant's motion there. And I had never had a copy of it. This was long before the plaintiff ever had the complaint. Such defective service denies Glendora's rights under the 5th and 14th Amendments of the Constitution of the United States. Point B, defendants are untimely in their answer. The answer due in plaintiff's hands May the 24th, Monday, was not even postmarked until May the 25th. Here's the calendar to show you all that. Plaintiff's complaint was served on defendant's May 3rd, 1993, Monday, within 20 days, not counting the day of service, as May the 23rd, 1993. CPLR 2103-2 says, by mailing the paper to him at the address designated by him for that purpose. Add 3 days for service by mail, and May the 26th, 1993, Wednesday, is the latest day plaintiff could receive defendant's answer. Plaintiff did not receive defendant's answer until May the 27th, 1993, Thursday. Here are all of their certified receipts, and here are their green cards. Return receipt requested. And here is their postmark that it wasn't mailed until May 26th. No, May 25th is postmarked. On these two grounds alone, denial of due process and answer not timely, defendant's motion to dismiss should be denied, and plaintiff's motion for default and/or summary judgment should be granted. But plaintiff will go on with more points and with answering defendant's frivolous paper received by plaintiff May 27th, Thursday noon. Point C, defendants in their answer motion do not deal with the issue. The issue is negligence, 33 counts of negligence and negligent infliction of emotional distress. Defendants fail to face the issue head on or even back to or sideways. Defendants know that negligence happened, know there is an audio tape record of them, know that they are very serious violations. Ergo, defendants are afraid to deal with the issue, negligences. This is because the defendants have no meritorious defense. Consequently, Jacobs goes on to do what lawyers get paid to do, lie, cover up, and smokescreen. Being an attorney is a grand and glorious profession. You give one a grand and they feel glorious. Point D, the FCC has nothing to do with this complaint. Jacobs tries to sidetrack the court with the FCC citations. This tactic is heading straight for the ionosphere. It has no gravity that it can hold on to. Regarde, please. Jacobs point 2, quote, plaintiff has no private right of action to enforce the Communications Act. Plaintiff has encountered lawyers who go far out with smoke screening claims to distract the judge, but this is bizarre to the extreme. Do you notice Jacobs anywhere dealing with the real charge negligences? The real charge negligences, 33 counts. The real The real charge, negligent infliction of emotional distress? No, Jacobs is afraid to. He is afraid to because he knows how serious these charges are. And he knows Glendora has the proof, and the proof already has been submitted. Glendora knows the FCC pays attention to adjudication because in 1987, when Glendora challenged the license renewal of WCBS-TV on the grounds of the sales department's lies, irresponsibilities, cheats, greed, and breaches, the FCC kept asking for court papers on the same. Now, their license, WCBS-TV Channel 2, is up for renewal on July the 1st, 1994. You know, that's just about a year away. And along about February of 1994, you ought to write to the FCC objecting to WCBS-TV having its license renewed. Defendant's point 2 has no merit, and plaintiff asked the court to dismiss it. So to say plaintiff has no private right to enforce the Communications Act Communication Act is a grotesque thing to say on 3 grounds. 1, she does. 2, her complaint does not state that she is. And 3, her complaint is about 33 negligence and negligent infliction of emotional distress. Point 5, Jacobs' paper is wrong on page 2 in stating the essence of plaintiff's complaint appears to be that she has a right to have her commercials broadcast over CBS Airways and she was defamed. The man does not understand plain English. This is not what Glendora's claim is at all. It's a matter only of reading Glendora's bound 4-page complaint. A 10-year-old could comprehend better. The complaint is negligences, 33 counts, and negligent infliction of emotional distress. Jacobs writes she is angry because CBS determined the commercials do not meet CBS broadcast standards. Jacobs does not tell you that CBS already has broadcast these commercials 10 times clear across the country. CBS defendants and attorney have ensnared themselves in their own web. If the commercials did not meet production standards, why did CBS broadcast them 10 times the last 2 weeks of 1992 on Family Feud? Why, I ask you, the answer is negligence and malice. Their lie has trapped them. Jacobs right. Plaintiff appears to be asserting a claim for violation of the Federal Communications Act. This is bizarre. Jacobs has no comprehension of plaintiff's claim. The claim is negligences and negligent infliction of emotional distress. Nowhere do defendants deal with the complaint correctly. They are deaf, dumb, and blind. Jacobs writes that Glendora's complaint is incomprehensible. He substantiates this by his total lack of comprehension. To any person of normal intelligence, Glendora's complaint is pellucid. Jacobs is right that he does not comprehend Glendora's complaint, but he is wrong in saying Glendora's complaint is incomprehensible. Then Jacobs pathetically meanders off into the vast FCC wasteland of Newton Minnow of 2 decades ago. All of this can just be ignored. It has no substance, no application, and no relevance, and it is just smoke screening. This court does have subject matter jurisdiction because the subject matter is negligences, 33 counts, and negligent infliction of emotional distress. Defendant's pointless point that this court does not have subject matter jurisdiction can be dismissed along with their motion to dismiss plaintiff's complaint. Point F. Defendant's point 2, page 3, plaintiff has no private right of action to enforce the Communications Act is not relevant. Defendants are hopelessly lost in understanding the complaint or just plain acting dumb and are not addressing the issue of negligence, 33 counts, and negligent infliction of emotional distress. Their point 2 belongs to some other lawsuit, not Glendora's lawsuit. Indeed, point 2 really sounds like a recorded announcement. Slander, the cause of action is not slander, the cause of action is negligences. Counsel and defendants failed to deal with the issue, negligences, 13 counts of negligence. Plaintiff does have a cause of action, and that is negligences and negligent infliction of emotional distress. Jacobs is like so many attorneys. You don't need to put in 3 years at law school. All you have to do is read CPLR 3211A7. 3 minutes can get you a law degree. CPL 32A7, no cause of action. The slander was communicated to a third person. I went over that with you. Glendora told Lawrence Tisch and sent him an audio tape. Glendora announced it at the CBS annual meeting to the 4 people on the dais and to the directors, including Henry Kissinger, and to 150 shareholders. Why does Jacobs say 1 or more telephone conversations breast into Glendora? There was one and only one. This lawyer is not fully familiar with the circumstances of this case, as further proved by his not dealing with the issue. Negligences, 33 counts of negligence and negligent infliction of emotional distress. Bresson communicated the defamation to more than a third person, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth, a seventh. Defamatory statements is not the whole truth. There were defamatory statements and actions. Plaintiff was slandered by the defendants, and defendants were negligent in doing so. About the third-party claim, plaintiff's complaint is not a defamation complaint or a libel complaint. It is a negligence complaint. Jacobs is just trying to deceive the Supreme Court. Further, there was malice, and the issue of malice has to be dealt with and not covered up by smoke screening about the FCC. Defendants failed to deal with the malice in this defamation. What the defendants did was malicious. It was defamation per se. This malice explains some of the pusillanimous runaway, persistently ignoring all phone contact, in-person contact, and written communication. What was malicious? The commercial was not broadcast standard. This after it had already been broadcast. Figure that one out. It is malice. A commercial that is not broadcast standard can be negotiated with the client and become broadcast standard. Glendora has been doing the same for 42 years, yet the defendants closed out any such possibility. Why? Malice. You can hear the malice in Beth Bresson's voice on the audio tape. You can note the malice in covering up for the executive vice president, network sales, and the senior vice president, network sales, whom the defendants were so careful not to name in there. One and only one, and very weak and insipid written communication. Lowry. Jacobs takes great pains to direct the court's attention away from this malice. The plaintiff maintains this defamation was communicated to a third person just by plaintiffs being shut out of the CBS TV picture on the air ever since. That in itself is third-party statement. Point, this is not what the plaintiff's complaint is. Jacobs is not paying attention. Glendora's complaint is exactly as she stated. Negligence is 33 counts, and negligent infliction of emotional distress. Jacobs' statement, lines 1 to 5, is shameful lies. It appears he deliberately misconstrues the issue to distract Judge Rosado. In protest to Jacobs, page 2.1, this court lacks subject matter jurisdiction over first claim. Plaintiff asked the court to dismiss this argument on the grounds that Jacobs does not know what plaintiff's first claim is. Plaintiff's claim is negligence. It's 33 counts plus negligent infliction of emotional distress. Jacobs can't seem to understand that. It is incontrovertible that the airwaves belong to the public. Nobody in his right mind would argue this. The airwaves are in the hands of the FCC, and the FCC is a public entity. On this foundation, plaintiff has asked the court to dismiss Jacobs' point 1. The airwaves do not belong to CBS. The airwaves belong to you. These are the public's airwaves. And Glendora will submit the papers of this lawsuit to the FCC. The licenses of WCBS TV is up for renewal July 1st, 1994. Glendora and Associates had to ask CBS 23 times, when is the FCC license of WCBS TV up for renewal? She asked Chairman Chiss's, she and others asked Chairman Tisch's office that about 10 times, and they didn't know. And there's, oh, we'll connect you to somebody, and the ones they connected us to, they didn't know. So we'd have to call back Tisch's office and say, the ones you connected to, they don't know either. Again, Jacobs' statements, as this court lacks subject matter jurisdiction over plaintiff's first claim, is nullified by the fact that CBS airwaves is wrong. The public's airwaves is right. So this statement by Jacobs has no validity. Plaintiff objects to Jacobs saying Glendora's right to have her commercial broadcast over the CBS airwaves. This is an attempt to deceive. The airwaves are the public's airwaves. The CBS airwaves is an arrogance. The public's airwaves is what the truth is. And point J, defendants cannot claim incorrectly sued. It was defendants' negligence in not putting things in writing, as Glendora pressed for 7 days, 5 times a day, that caused the misspellings. If this matter has been maturely and intelligently and professionally put in writing, but how can they do that when their actions are neither mature nor intelligent nor professional? Glendora would have had the correct spelling of Martin Daly and Howard Stringer. The only things in writing that came from these negligent defendants is on the next page. And that's what I read to you. It turns out, folks, that there is no executive vice president of network sales. There is an executive vice president of CBS marketing and communications. His name is Peter Lund. Glendora knows Peter. He used to live in Bronxville before CBS fired him the first time, about 4 years ago. He was going to be on her TV program, A Chat with Glendora. Defendants Howard Stringer, Beth Bresson, and Martin Daly were all negligent in not responding to Glendora in writing, thus causing the misspellings. The Senior Vice President of Network Sales is Joseph Abruzese. A-B-R-U-Z-Z-E-S-E. Why didn't the defendants tell Glendora this over the 7 days of questioning, 5 calls a day? If the defendants had answered Glendora's questions and not run away like delinquents, the names of the Executive Vice President and Senior Vice President at Network Sales would have been stated in the caption. This negligence buttresses Glendora's case against these defendants on 33 counts of negligence. In $30,000 worth of business at CBS, Martin Daly referred to himself only as Marty Daly. And Matt Steinfeld, who works for Daly and is Glendora's salesman, also always referred to Daly as Marty Daly. No matter how the names are spelled, the defendants are legally sued. Their identification is unmistakable, and everyone received the summons with notice and complaint. So defendants have no claim to incorrectly sued. That's really a trivial point. But that's what lawyers get paid for. Now, patently frivolous, or any other kind of frivolous, is a juvenile thing to say about these negligences, 33 of them, that these defendants committed. To violate the public's airwaves is not frivolous. Glendora objects to rambling. All that she has said is cuttingly to the point, too cuttingly for the CBS defendants. And point K, pursuant to CPLR 3211B, defendants do not state a defense. They present no evidence and no exhibits. They do not ever answer the cause of action, negligences. They eschewed the issue negligences, 33 counts. Their paper has no merit. It is without common sense, and it is without intelligence. Wherefore, plaintiff's complaint should not be dismissed on any of the insipid statements in defendant's so-called memorandum of law, and plaintiff respectfully pleads that this court grant her motion for default and or summary judgment against these defendants and grant plaintiff the $110,000 plus the cost of this action plus any further relief this court deems fit. And this is notarized by Ivan Pinheiro, who is an assistant clerk in the county clerk's office. Well, I went to the CBS annual meeting. A lot of important people were there. Tisch did a very good job. He did a much better job than John Curley of Gannett in fielding shareholders' questions. He actually answered them in a very sensible way. Henry Kissinger was there. He's the director. And Robert Tisch was there. Robert Tisch lives in Harrison, and he's Lawrence Tisch's brother. And Robert Tisch was the former Postmaster General. I spoke. I told them about what these people had done. And Tisch said that he just sloughed it off. He said it was a personal matter. It really isn't a personal matter. It's a shareholders' matter, because why do you turn away business like that? Is that good for the shareholders? Is that in the best interest of the shareholders? And I told him a joke, and but I did get in quite a lot of my points. Now, soon after this, we have to advertise our business, Glendora TV ads. So I bought the time over at NBC, at the NBC television network, and I bought 17 30-second spots, and the price of that was about $38,000. And those ran on concentration, 17 of them. They started sometime in May, and they went through July. So there's $38,000 in revenue that CBS did not get, and we still don't know what is down at the bottom of this. Nobody has really fessed up as to who made the complaint, who was behind this, and what his or her motivation was. The return date on that was what? The return date on that was what? June the 14th, right? Flag Day? Okay, this is August the 1st, 1993. And so let's see, Judge Rosado has from June the 14th to July the 14th, August 14th. His decision will be coming pretty soon because he only has 60 days to make it.